For you today, buddy? It's so good to be here with you as always on the Art of Encouragement. I'm Nick Patterson. If you're joining us for the first time today, we're so glad you're here. Our podcast is related to just that encouragement. We want to spread hope. We want to inspire change because we know that the world is a lot of times a negative place. And instead of supporting and uplifting one another, often our response as we become jaded is to look at our differences instead of our similarities. It's to look at what separates instead of what brings us together. But today, I want you to know that there's only one of you, and the world needs you. You matter, your life matters, and I'm so glad to be able to intersect with you today. Greg McClintock is a wonderful friend of mine. He's joining us today from Ohio. Each week he is there. And our co-host Mark today will not be joining us. He is out and about traveling around the world as he often is. Greg, tell
Good
me
morning.
everything. Yeah, how's your week? Tell me everything, buddy. I'm going
I've
to
got a lot of
spotlight
things.
you.
I've got a lot of things penciled down we could talk about, but just what you're saying to the world and to our friends watching us live. Welcome. Good morning. I'm Greg McClintock, part of the Art of Encouragement podcast, which started with a book over a year ago that Nick and Mark plug once in a while, but not that often. You can find the book online. Amazing stories there. But I was just going through some material throughout the week and trying to sort out exactly what you're saying, Nick. The difference that we have with one another, that cannot be the focus of how we relate to one another. And going back to my mind, when I first met you, and then when I moved up here from Florida to Ohio, my entire life was transitioning, job, poverty, coming out of nowhere to being married and doing what I'm doing now and all that. But what come to mind was volunteering did for me and it does for people. And I suggest anyone watching, if you want to make a difference, create it. And I came across that a few days back, just online researching. Abraham Lincoln said that. I'm going to go back and look when he said that. It was probably before he was ever president. And certainly he didn't see a civil war come that he would hold together. But volunteering in your life into a place where it helps the community, helps a person that makes you feel good. And here's the key that I came up with. If I thought I could make a difference, I would go hand out the food boxes at a food pantry. Not that anyone can do it or it's beneath me. I really felt involved. I made a difference. And what I found out in reflection is that it made a difference for me. Um, I had enough just to pay my bills. I had food stamps. I could get a box if I wanted. Sometimes I had to and wanted to. But watching how it transitioned me when I volunteered, all I could invest was me, not my money, but my time. And that right there, extreme differences. Here's rich people or upper income helping, donating, people working class giving it away, and people trying to walk past their shame. We have differences, but we didn't pick at that. We bridged it. I bridged it through volunteering, and I encourage people to volunteer in anything that they think they can make a difference in because it'll help them.
Absolutely. And you know, a lot of times when we focus on encouragement, we look at those who are struggling, those who are struggling, and usually we look at income as a or resources as kind of a metric to know who we could serve and who we could help. There are a lot of people over the last couple of years I've intersected with that have a lot of money in the bank, but they have deep pain, they have deep loss. And one of the ways that I realized we can encourage those who are going into a new season of life, the church in World Golf Village, they have a program called Grief Share. And that has been an incredible way that I have seen the community coming together. And regardless of faith background and that sort of thing, they assemble and they talk through their grief and they encourage the person leading it has been through that same experience, and they encourage people to realize that your loss, your grief is unique, but there are ways to work through it. There are ways to see a new day, while still honoring that love that someone's lost. And I think that's vital, that we feed the hungry, we visit the prisoners, but we remember the widows, we remember the orphans as well, because so often the the people that smile the most and the people that offer empathy, compassion, support, they're the ones that feel the deepest. And they're the ones that need that encouragement as well to keep going. It's impossible to pour out what you don't have. And if you've given your reserves away, allow someone to come into your life and to encourage you. You don't have to do it all. We don't have the trademark on encouragement, that's for sure. It takes everyone. At times, we need to be encouraged. I was sharing with you before the show, I've had a week medically this week, and it seems like a whole summer of it. Well, if we go back even before Carnegie Hall, it's been an entire season of health issues for me, starting in the winter of last year. And here we're knocking on fall's door. That gets overwhelming at times.
Sure.
And I find myself going and just doing what I have to do and not having the capacity to do more. Looking forward to the days when I will be back up there and having all the strength I'm used to. But right now, I don't have it. And that's, I think, empowering for me to admit, but also it allows people to know where I am.
Mhm.
Yesterday I woke up, I had a large bruise, wasn't sure why I had this. I mean, it's a humongous bruise. And I said, that's not right. So I went back into my cardiologist, and right away, without, and here's the thing, you'll laugh at this. I have an issue with a lot of anesthesia, and they I it's called malignant hyperthermia, and I almost passed away one time because of that. And so I take my anesthesia a little differently. And they, with the procedure I've been having, they've been giving me a dose of something and then also having the laughing gas. Yesterday, there was no laughing gas, they had run out. And so I got to experience a lot of pain in that surgery yesterday. But at the end of the day, I definitely felt alive. There's no doubt about it, Greg. I'm still alive.
Wow. Well, we went from volunteerism to being all you can, create, make a difference. Everyone grieves different, and we need to come alongside to know your doctor and communication. All on the art of encouragement. Who
That's
knew what you could go through? But there's a
that's
whole
it.
world, www, World Wide Web. Everybody out there has had or will have probably a medical issue that they survived. Good seeing you this morning. I was just thinking you weren't answering the phone call. You were out there somewhere in the universe. Glad you landed. Oh my goodness. And certainly I
Yeah.
won't laugh, but why are we laughing? Because the levity in the moment comes from the seriousness of the problem. That's usually when we learn to laugh at ourselves. And
It,
good thing you went to say, hey, what about this bruise? The medical team said, come with me.
yeah.
What about that bruise? So what are we looking at? What are we looking at? If someone's grieving, I don't suggest that grief share group that you brought up. I remember that. I actually went through one course, one season of that with some volunteers, and I'm a non-denominational Christian. I'm a Nazarene by choice of affiliation, but I believe I can sit at the table, Lutheran, Presbyterian, anybody, because if not for many issues, certainly the one issue, grief share. It doesn't matter what when Jesus came, it was a rabbi or was a Gentile. Someone was grieving, and he showed up at weddings, he showed up at funerals, and God will show up as he did for you. Thank you, Lord. Show up for us every day. We can show up for people. Back to volunteering and transitioning over into doing what you can. You have all the accomplishments on your checklist that you want to do, and yet they elude you. That time of medical timeout goes back to the time to when I met you in the timeout. And that's when you did some of your greatest work that you now point back to. So encourage you, my friend, rest, get your peace, write, reflect, AI, write it down, go back to sleep. I'm going to hire somebody to come watch you sleep. That sounds weird, but we need to see how you're sleeping. He's been there for 2 days. He's probably not sleeping. Uh, so I want to encourage you, people watching, as well as myself, when things are hard. I've had loss recently. In my family, my daughter's mom passed away, and learning to walk that with family. My place. What can I do? Where can I go? And I've always been, and I'm wired to be a talker, but I've never done more listening than I have when my pastor one time, a lady friend of ours at church, had like 4 or 5 people during COVID pass away. And I'm talking like in a 60-day run or something. I got a phone call one day. Can you come by and join me in the counseling? And I just sat there with him, and the woman who is not normally a talkative person just poured out. She did all the talking. Probably doesn't remember what she did, but she memorialized and talked about all the people and in love, or she's going grocery shopping or whatever. And it did not matter, nor am I trying to recall what she said. We were there. That made a deeper friendship with her and her mother coming to the church because she knew she had a place of friends somewhere in the crowd. The pastors, other men and women in the church, me and my family, that she could just, they know a little bit different about me, so they understand my hurt. And all I did was what? I volunteered my time and sat in a chair. It's so powerful to be available for people.
The ministry of presence. That is what, in my former denomination, the United Methodist Church, that's what that would have been called, is the ministry of presence. And here's the thing, whether you're religious or not, you can offer the gift of yourself,
Mm.
of being there, of having a listening ear, of especially if you are typically a talker, that person knows what a gift you're giving them by being the listener that day. And sometimes you're absolutely right, Greg. It's in those moments where we listen, we get to know people in those moments where people have had everything broken down. And you've heard me give my talk about loss before, but it's in those moments that we have potential. We have the ability when everything falls apart to rebuild. And people need a safe space to talk through that. They need that safe space to memorialize. And what a greater gift we can give someone than that. This week, I read an article, and it's interesting. We're talking about grief today. Um, I'll share a couple of things. I had the chance a couple of weeks ago to meet my ex-wife that passed away, her birth mother. And it was such a wonderful experience because when my wife and I were married, I looked for her. I tried to find her. Kim was adopted as an orphan or as an infant and, placed up for a Catholic adoption. And we looked and looked and looked, trying to find her mother. When I was on that extended vacation, um, some laws were changed. And we found out that her mother had actually been looking for her the entire time as well.
Wow.
And just, Kim's birth father's a Google scholar, a neurosurgeon, all those things. And her mom is a mortician, a business owner, just a very, very wonderful woman. And we got to ask questions and just come together in a grief that is it's a unique one for sure. But we both went away from that experience feeling like we had spent time with the other person, that we had spent time with Kim. And it was it was such a surreal moment and an encouraging one, because when you look for someone multiple times over years and you spend money, you spend time hiring this investigative service and that one, and to know that they were able to connect before she passed away. They did have those moments. It wasn't nice, but she wanted to hear good moments and the just good memories. And the first couple of years of our marriage were probably the happiest time of my life, Greg. They truly were. And so just to give her, some snapshots of when Kim was not struggling, it was so encouraging to her to hear some of those things. And it was encouraging for me to see her, to meet her, to see some of the similarities she had. But you never know if you're spending time with someone now, how 20 years later, your life can be affected one day with just a phone call.
Well, on that, I'll segue. This is not scripted. This is our wild and crazy human lives. It's not
Yes.
Nick. It's not great. We're just telling on humanity. So gather in the crowd. You're one of us. Look at the background, all the little shiny dots. Be one of them. Be a star. When my daughter was born, my only child, love her dearly, tall, beautiful blonde, I was not there because I did not know. Her mother and I were college dated lovers. We created her, and I didn't know it. It would be 15 years later when they were looking for me, and I didn't know I was being looked for. But during the time of life, I was looking to get married and have a family. That failed. I got married and got divorced without any children. That on 15 years of me trying to figure out life and create a family, I'd already created a family unbeknown to me. And then one day, like you just said, I took the microphone. Pardon me. Sorry, but not sorry. I got a phone call from her mother and said, "Do you remember me?" "Yes, I do. Come meet your daughter." And I went to West Virginia, met her for the first time. And she's now 42. I'm 62. And we at times reflect back. Do you remember when we first met? She would ask, or I would ask. And I said, "I really remember I was dorky enough to bring you flowers." I won't even go into what that meant. Cherished childhood memory, now young woman,
What were
everything.
you wearing? I need to hear what you were wearing. I can
I
imagine
got pic-
you.
I got pictures. The year was 1996. I was living in Orlando, so I had a mullet type. I don't know what I had, but my
Yeah,
hair
we
looked.
definitely need the visual on this, Greg. I had to pipe in and say that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need the visual. It'd be like Jeff Foxworthy with a bad mustache on a big frame, and but I reflect back to where I'm trying to do something, and it's a spiritual good. I want to have children. I want to have a family. I want to belong. She already belonged, didn't know who she belonged to. And it was a gift to her on like her early teens or adolescence. I want to know who my dad is. Well, when it's time, we'll look for him. And they end up going back to some of the best work I ever did at West Virginia State College, looked in the annual and went down to the registrar, got the yearbook picture, and she said, "That guy right there in that basketball team, that's your dad." So the good work that I did And the season may not come full fruit to you till 15 years later. Ooh, ooh. And now we have a great relationship and all that. Now she has a daughter, my granddaughter, who's smarter than anything I've ever met. And she'll assure me of that.
That's it. And if our listeners, if you don't know Crystal, she's amazing,
Amazing.
amazing, and maybe we can get her on here one day again.
What a story. Her life is so wonderful in a difficult season, but it's transitioning in such a wonderful way.
That's
And she's
fantastic.
good. Yeah, she's powerful woman, a
Well,
powerful woman.
we'll let her know that all of us here at the Art of Encouragement continue to root for her, and we believe in her and can't wait to see how this next season unfolds for her. We want to be part of it. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. Um, as we continue in our discussion today, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there's an election. I just thought I would bring that up for us today.
Didn't know.
Have
Nobody
you
told me.
okay. I was wondering here, I want to look up a quote real quick. And as I shared, I'm a former Methodist. John Wesley, who, as a Nazarene, you know him.
I know, John. Got the classes. Prove it.
October 6th, 1774, Reverend Wesley said, I met those of our society who had votes in the ensuing election and advised them, number one, to vote without fee or reward for the person they judged the most worthy. Number two, to speak no evil of the person they voted against. And number three, and this is critical for our group, to take care that their spirits were not sharpened against those that voted on the other side. Whoa, that's major. And it, our world, we're so divided right now, and I'm not going to point either way. That's not what the discussion, me bringing that up was, but remember, an election happens every 4 years. Your family members, your friends, your coworkers, that's your tribe. That's your group. Don't do something that because you're so politically polarized that will alienate and isolate the people that you love and the people that love you. If you can't do as Reverend Wesley said there, evaluate where you are. Evaluate where you are because we are the United States of America here for Greg and I. I know Mark is all over the world, but
Hi, Mark.
hi Mark.
Yeah,
But
wherever.
but be nice. Be nice, be supportive. And here's the thing, if you've got your own mind made up, vote, be pleased with your vote, give your vote to the Lord either way, and be done with it. Don't participate. If I can encourage anyone today, don't participate in the mudslinging. Don't participate in the, if you voted for this person, you've got to be this stupid. No, stop that. Stop that. Be nice, folks, because your children are watching. Here's the thing, your children are watching, younger generations are watching. And if you're really wanting to change the world right now, respect and understand that you have people looking up to you. Sure, share with them why you voted the way you voted, but don't get them to where they're alienating and to where we're developing racism based on political party. Don't do that. I threw that out there. I know I may get some backlash for that, and I'm okay with it because I'm not voting either way. So at the end of the day, I want you, regardless of your conviction, go with it. Go with the person that you are called to vote for, but be nice about it. And don't tear down relationships because someone didn't vote the same way you did. Don't look at them differently. Don't do that, because we are in a time where I'm seeing families split apart because
Yeah,
of this election.
yeah,
It's not
ridiculous.
worth it. Like, stop for a second. That's my encouragement today. Stop for a second. Write
That
it
is a
down.
great. Write it
Write
down.
it down. But
Here's a
stop
great.
the
I'll
hate.
jump right on there. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You done? Pastor, Pastor, Pastor Nick Patterson, soon to be pastor in ministry training, Greg McClinic. What come to my mind is a thing I try to focus on every day. There's a scene in the Bible. Jesus calls the 12, and somewhere along their journey, Simon was a zealot. Judas, we'd find out later, church treasurer, non-believer. Everybody thought was a good guy, likes his thoughts. They thought, right? Watch it. It's hilarious. Why these 12? We'll plug this in. They not paying taxes or do pay taxes, a political thing. Jesus told Peter, render unto Caesar what's his, and unto God what's his. So there's one dynamic. And then Simon the Zealot, the other one's, you are the king. Yes, I am. You've come. You're the Lord. You're the Messiah. Yes, I am. Well, let's do the war. He said, this is not the time. This is the time of the peace and of mercy and forgiving your enemy and all that. So he brought unity to the table on all things political. And they all sat at the table in fellowship. And if we see that we sit at the table in fellowship first, nothing. Where I work, how I vote has no meaning in my meaningful relationships. God
That's
first,
it.
God centered.
That's it. Well, I have so enjoyed this with you today, Greg. We're
Man, had a
already
good
at
time.
our time, but I encourage you to keep being yourself, Greg. You have such an amazing heart, and you have so many gifts and skills that I see being developed, but also ones that you have that you've had, because those are yours. Those are talents that you're working with. And I just want you to know, as your friend, that's why I asked you to be part of this group, is
Well, thank
because
you.
I see so much in you, and you make the world a better place, sir. So keep doing that. Keep
And
doing
to
that.
include Mark, that orange, that pink dot behind you I see move, that could be him on a plane.
Yes.
Mark Guy
We
is
love
not
you,
missing
Mark. We love you. We hope
wherever
you
you're
have a
at.
great day. All right. See you guys right here next week. We've got a special guest next week named
Who we
John
got?
Street. Oh, you got to watch him. He's an encourager too. He's in real estate. He lives in Alabama like I used to. And he's just wonderful, but he starts out every day encouraging. And I asked him if he would come and be one of our guests, because he also is intentional with encouragement. So can't wait to have John Street on next week. Be watching for some social media graphics
Sure.
and that sort of
Yeah.
thing about him. We'll share those around, but we appreciate y'all joining us, listening to our banter. And at the end of the day, we hope you're encouraged. We hope you find yourself somewhere in this encouragement. If you do, please like us, subscribe to us. Please leave us comments, because we will interact with you. Greg is great about that. So please just send us a line. Let us know if you liked it, if you didn't like it, and if you'll be joining us next week. We'll see you right here on the Art of Encouragement. Bye,
Be
guys.
good. Love you, buddy.